Good afternoon, everybody. Did you know that in the event of a crisis, the U.S. government expects its citizens to be able to survive by themselves for 72 hours while help is mobilized? That means if a zombie attack happened today or that Sharknado really hit, we have 3 days where we had to make it by ourselves. And we've all heard that you need to have a 72-hour kit and you need to have food storage. But the problem is sometimes these emergencies hit when we're not prepared or when we're in a situation where we can't be prepared. That food storage is not going to help you if you're in your car driving down I-35. So, my goal today is to teach you some tips that will help you to be prepared in any situation. I'm going to take you through critical food items that you need, critical objects that you need, and then I'll give you a real-world example. So, this is what we will be talking about today. First, let's take a bite out of the foods you're going to need. Honey is vitally important because if you've got any unpalatable foods, maybe you're able to find meat or something, you need to be able to eat it, get it down. And honey is a natural sweetener and it's not going to spoil. So if you're able to make it palatable and help yourself to eat, that's going to be super important. The next thing is canned goods. Any canned goods you can get your hands on are already packaged, are portable, and are not going to spoil. You can make sure that they're not going to be contaminated in event of a disaster just by checking them. You don't have to boil them. Next, you definitely want canola oil because if there's anything you're going to need to cook, canola oil has a really long shelf life and it's something you can eat. And in the event that you need warmth, you can also burn it and make fire. That could keep you alive. You're also going to want some dry foods. Now, the one stipulation here is that if you know your water supply is limited, you want to stay away from salted foods, but whatever you can get your hands on that you can eat quickly, especially if you're in a situation where you need to move from one point of disaster to a point of safety, you don't have time to cook. And finally, the most vital food is flour, because you can cook flour to a bunch of quick breads that you can be eating the whole time. Pioneers in Utah ate gruel and quick breads, and you can do it too. You only need to live for 3 days. All right. Next, let's get over, this food and drink stuff comes from AbsoluteRights.com. We'll go over to the drinks next. Obviously, you want filtered water. You cannot be drinking flood water. You're going to die. If you have a filter that you can get your hands on, maybe you raid a grocery store and you find one, that's great because you can keep your water supply going. But definitely make sure that those bottles haven't been opened. And everybody's favorite, beer. You need beer in an emergency for 3 critical reasons. First, it's got electrolytes, so if you find someone who's dehydrated or if you're dehydrated, the beer's going to rehydrate you quickly. Second, it'll treat wounds. If you get hurt in the emergency, you can clean that wound and make sure that you're not infected and keep it clean for those critical 72 hours. And third, it's a great bartering agent. If you come across someone who has something that you need, you can trade this because it's a useful item. It's not just to get drunk on. All right, food's going to keep you alive, but food is not going to get you very far. So let's talk about the items you need. First, you're obviously going to need a can opener. You're going to need to open those foods, and can openers can be used to do other things. You can open bottles with this hook here. You can cut something if you need to. Next, you definitely need a small camping stove to cook that food again and also as a heat source. You're going to need a battery-powered radio. This is crucial. Your car's not going to work probably because you might run out of gas. You're not going to have electricity, and what you really, really need is to be connected so that you can get to help quickly. You obviously need a rope and knife. This can be used for a plethora of reasons, but most importantly, self-protection, and if you get stuck or if there's a flood, you can tie yourself and keep yourself from being moved. These items come from PatriotHeadquarters.com. And finally, I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, toilet paper, but a lot of people don't realize how crucial this is. You don't want to be suffering for 72 hours, and on top of that, like beer, it's a fabulous bartering agent. All right, now let me give you a real-world example. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 was the most devastating hurricane to hit the United States. It was the most devastating natural disaster to ever hit our country. And that was a big problem because a lot of the suffering that occurred from Hurricane Katrina was contributed to the lack of preparedness. 1,833 people died. And some of that could have been helped if they had had basic needs like food and water. And that is where these tips come in. Millions were suddenly homeless. If you see here in this top red arrow, there's a home there, and then the home's gone. There's a home there in that top corner, and then the home's gone. And then here, this is part of a gas station. The hurricane has moved it all the way into this parking court or maybe a hotel. It's hard to tell. You don't want to be the person whose food is in their home when your home gets flooded and suddenly not know what to do. These tips can help you in any situation. If you're these guys in the boat, right, you can still live because you know what to get. Get yourself to a grocery store in the middle of the hurricane and you're going to be okay. So to wrap up, now you know the food you need in a crisis. Now you know the items you need and a real life example. My sources for the storm were from livescience.com. And my final thought is this. None of these tips are going to provide you with comfort in an emergency, but comfort is not your goal. I am trying to provide you with the means you need to stay alive. Thank you.